Hello, everyone. All right, welcome to AltHR Shift. I'm Marnie Robbins here with my co-host and co-creator Mindy Honkoop, and this show is all about unique perspectives that can completely shift how we lead, build teams, and rethink work in general, because let's face it, work in general is just changing every minute of every day. So each episode we talk with leaders and builders about the moments that change the way they see leadership and people and the way that we work. Today is a very special day. We're joined by my good friend, Allie Merchant, and mentor, and I'm just really excited for this one because joining two of my favorite people on this earth. So Allie, a little bit about Allie. So he has spent 2 decades leading teams and scaling learning and development departments for public companies, tech brands, and the world's largest agencies. Today, he's the founder of All In Manager, a leadership development firm that trains and coaches managers to become leaders. Since 2018, Ali has trained thousands of managers and coached hundreds of senior leaders worldwide. His insights reach more than 50,000 leaders in over 100 countries. Geez. Ali lives in Chicago with his wife, Sarah, and his dog. Oh, what's your dog's name again?
Dog's name is Lenny, who is a wild child, by the way. Yeah.
Lenny. That is fantastic. And one other thing that I hadn't updated in your bio, but Ali is also the author of The All In Manager. Please make sure you pick this up. It's a must read for anyone who leads people and needs pragmatic insights, advice, and frankly, it's like a steal because there's so many tools in here. So very, very welcome to you, Ali. And how you doing, Mindy? I see you over there. How's your week going?
Hey, it's going good. And I love what you're saying about change because I feel that every day things are changing and what I knew was good enough for yesterday is now no longer good enough. So, the shifting of technology and how we get work done is just, even from a day-to-day perspective, it can sometimes be, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think it's
Absolutely.
way more. I don't know about you guys, but I know it's a lot, but it really is a lot. And I'm seeing this from managers, I'm seeing this from individual contributors, but there's another cohort of people who understand change really well, which is heads of HR.
Hmm.
You guys have obviously been heads of HR, and they're saying the same thing, which is, wow, it's like drinking water from a fire hose. It's just non-stop here. So I'm glad to talk about change and how it's impacting us and what does this look like going forward.
Absolutely. That being said, I want to talk about the role of managers in change. And I think this is why I was really excited to have you come on board, because it's one thing for a company to say, yeah, we're rolling through the changes, we're doing all these initiatives. But when it really comes down to it, it's our people leaders who have an integral role. But Ali, do you mind, from what you've seen in recent days and in weeks and months, what is that role of the people leader or the manager in these change initiatives?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little controversial here. Well, a lot
Please do.
probably. So I've spent almost 18 years helping employees become better at their jobs. And we typically talk about managers. Managers are the linchpin. Managers are central to this idea. And then when it comes to change management, managers are in the middle. No wonder managers are so stressed out, because we're almost unintentionally scapegoating them. There's this new research that came out yesterday or 2 days back from Gallup, and they're talking about AI transformation. And Gallup obviously is super reliable, and they said 2 things when it comes to AI transformation. 2 things, which is AI transformation is going to be successful if it is integrated with your current products, right? So if you're using Excel, if you can use Claude within Excel, it's going to help. Sure, that's common sense. That makes sense. And the second thing was managers. If managers aren't pushing AI, it ain't gonna work. And intellectually, I get it. You get it. Mindy gets it as well, right? But my concern is who is taking care of the managers, because now we're saying Employee engagement depends on the manager. AI transformation depends on the manager. But when I talk to managers, which is pretty much all I do, they're like, who's taking care of me? I know I am responsible for helping my people change. I am responsible for inspiring my people. But who's inspiring me here? So I think, yes, managers are the central equation in everything. That is the job of leading people. But I worry that we're putting a lot on our managers and we're not giving them a lot of support as well.
I mean, yeah, I think that's so felt too. And then if you add on the fear that in some organizations where, you have like this digital transformation or AI initiatives, and you hear about AI and even with middle manager roles, right? And just sometimes as you go into organizations that have AI forward initiatives that lack clarity, lack
Right.
alignment, you wonder what's in this, how does it impact me with the limited support as a manager? Can you imagine even just like, what is this on my role, but how do I support the people on my team with this? You know, and that's just one thing that's going on right now in addition to all the things in the world. So what does real support for managers
Yeah.
then look like in practice?
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to come at it from different angles. And I'm a training guy, but we're not going to talk about training here because training's not a panacea.
Hmm.
I think the first thing we have to do, and it's on top of everyone's mind, which is AI transformation. So let's move in that area a little bit here, right? Which is how can managers help this AI transformation and how can we support them in the mix? I think the first thing that we want to do, and this is common sense, it's not common practice, is we have to engage in actual dialogue around the advantages of AI, sure, but let's also talk about the psychological safety aspects of AI because the managers I am talking to are saying, you know what, Ali, I can get my work done in 3 hours. But do I go to my boss and do I tell them that, hey, boss, I can actually do this thing really quickly here? Am I going to get in trouble for telling my manager that? Or will I get more work because now I've gotten so good at AI that I'm going to get more inbound from my manager, right? The other thing I'm seeing here is not just the time saving, but managers are coming and telling me that, okay, I'm training the bot on how to do my job. Why am I doing this? Am I training myself out of this position? So the point that I'm trying to make is as leaders, we need to first have an open and honest conversation, common sense, not common practice, at least from where I'm standing. Because the open and transparent conversations are not easy conversations. I've been around the block just like you for a long time. Those are hard conversations to have. So, and let's talk about change management here. The core piece, and Mindy, you said it so best, which is what's in it for me? We're not answering that question here right now. We're answering what's in it for the company, and that is very, very, very important. But I think we have to also start about what's in it for me, what are my hopes, and what are my fears. And you know what? You don't need a training session for this. You need someone who's empathetic. You need someone who's a seasoned HR leader who can ask really good questions and who doesn't have to pay lip service, but they can also listen. So I think we have to start there. You don't need a full flesh strategy to do this. You need to just first have that conversation. And I think we're overlooking that conversation piece. And I tend to believe that, you mentioned support. One way we support our people is by truly listening to their concerns. I don't see a lot of that happening from where I'm sitting right now.
Okay, there's so much that I could unpack there. First of all, I love our conversations, Allie. So passionate. I love what you just said about having dialogue, asking questions, because what's great about this is that you don't have to have all the answers. I think we're often stuck as in the conversations I have with HR leaders in all the level of uncertainty, start doubting themselves and don't realize how they often they'll keep them or they'll soften their voice or not even use their voice for starting a dialogue because you don't have to have all the answers to do what you just did, Allie. That's what I love is you just have to have some really thoughtful, caring questions. of help me understand, where are you at? What does support look like for you? And really checking our assumptions and making sure, okay, even if we have some data, what's the context behind that data? And how are you feeling about this? Where are it's keeping you up at night? And where are we seeing the gaps? How might I be able to help support you to bridge you from where you're at today to where we need to be? And I often think that these are the questions that all of us are, if we were to just step out in courage to just ask some of these questions, the dialogue that would happen drives that alignment, the clarity that we're so missing right now. But it's also, you said, what's in it for me? How am I feeling heard, valued, and seen? A powerful question does so much.
I think it does so much. It's not that hard to ask a question, but I want to go back to how you started, which is this idea that what will I do if someone asks me a question and I don't have a good answer for it? Too often, and I think this is a human condition, too often we opt out of the conversation instead of opting in and saying, you know what, Marnie or Mindy, that's a good question, and I don't have a great answer right now, but tell you what, I'll try and figure something out. Or let's not plan the entire 9 innings. Let's talk about the next pitch. Let's focus on what the next immediate pitch looks like, which is, this is important. We need to get better at this. And we can do two things. We can be human-led first, and we can bring in AI. But listen, we're all experts at being human, right? We're all experts at that part, at least. And I don't know about you, but every day people ask me questions and I don't have an answer to that. And I've learned, and it's taken me a while to understand this. As a new manager, I was told, make up something to look confident. That's just terrible advice. In fact, there's enough research that proves, and I've read that research that says, if you get to say, I'm not sure, or I don't know, not all the time, but some of the time, you actually build more credibility because you're being honest. Again, I want to repeat myself. I'm not saying say it all the time, but some of the time. But ask a good question, co-create the solution with your people. And I want to kind of add one more thing that I'm seeing a lot here, which is this idea of a shadow AI economy. Have you guys heard of the shadow AI economy that's people are talking about, which is a fascinating term. And I'm seeing this in the trenches where we're not having these conversations and we're telling people, this is the tool that we want you to use. The problem is the people in the trenches already have a tool that they're using. They're already
Mhm.
used to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever the heck they're using. In fact, they're paying for that tool out of their own money. They're not using the tool that IT is telling them to use. And I see both sides of the perspective because IT's job is to have governance and safety. And it would be kind of scary if you're using your own tool and you're uploading everything. But the truth is, it's already happening. Where I've actually asked friends who work from startups to 50,000 people companies, and I'm like, what tools are what is IT telling you? What are you using? And they're like, dude, I'm using what I've been using. Okay. So we're not having that conversation. And again, the nuance is not lost on me. If it's a in-person company, communication has to be completely different. But for smaller companies, I think this is a problem that is not insurmountable. Again, it is a difficult problem, but I think the first piece of this puzzle, and I know it's such an unsexy answer, but just heck, let's just talk to each other. Let's just maybe start there.
Start
Right?
there.
But it's so simple, and that's why we tend to, I think, overlook it.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite founders that have gone in and, I work with mostly startups, so they're a little experimental anyway, but they have intentionally created the space for those conversations and experimentation, whether that's quite literally a Slack space to share, this is what I did in Claude, or this is what I did in ChatGPT,
Right.
and opening up the data of their organization, but creating the freedom within the framework that they provide, or saying, what happens if we do decide to go down a path with AI, but there still has to be a human touching it, right? And so that, to me, is the companies that are really on the precipice of at least attempting to do the implementation and growth and efficiency and experimentation right are creating the space.
Right. And I'm glad you said this because our mutual friend, Nicholas, runs a great company, Cody, right? And
Yeah.
one of his employees was talking about how they were using this on LinkedIn. They were using Claude, and Claude, the agent, deleted one of their databases on
Yeah.
staging, not in production. And it was a small thing, but Nicholas, knowing the great leader he is, he's built an environment of psychological safety where not only were they able to get it back, they were able to learn and they were able to share publicly that this is what we are doing. That is the difference between a company and a great company where, again, culture dictates the experimentation phase, which is let's learn, let's figure this out. And by the way, folks, this is not new. This is not new. I know Amazon sometimes gets a bad reputation in the media, but there are people at Amazon who've been widely written about in media who've made colossal mistakes like this I forget her name, but she in her second or third week she did a database change and the Kindle app went down, and she's like, Jeff Bezos is going to fire me. And no, they're like, let's learn from this, let's figure out what happened. She got a horrible performance review, but by the way, this was in the Wall Street Journal. And she goes around, she's still there. She goes around Amazon 10, 15 years into it, and she talks about the mistake that she made and how she's gotten better as a result. This is going back to the core part of psychological safety. What I am seeing is in the day of AI, what is becoming more and more valuable is not just if you can learn a new skill that is incredibly valuable, but your leadership skills that people are not talking about are actually getting more and more valuable, not less at this time.
Yeah. And, that's you had mentioned kind of that core principle of psychological safety and being able to establish that. If you're an HR professional, I mean, we talk a lot about how do we support managers? How do we so we have a lot of these conversations that are very aspirational of like, yes, we need to failure is a signal. Mindy, you like to say that failure is a signal, right? It's good friction. And I think Allie, you even say that too. So how do we set up a system or help empower our leaders to not only embrace that, but to live it?
Yeah, so I'm going to just parse out the word live it. For your direct report to live something, you have to live it first. So my
Yeah.
question is, as a leader, are you modeling this yourself? Are you the one, and I have a story about this as well, are you the one that's stepping up and saying, I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball, and here's how I'm going to fix it. If I see my leader taking accountability and saying some mistakes are okay, and we can get better at this, then I'm also going to follow up in their footsteps literally and be like, I messed up. Let's get better here. So let me give you two quick stories. So I grew up at this company called iProspect, incredible company, incredible culture. And we did this leadership training, and it was my first time in this leadership training. It was a week-long training, and Friday afternoon, everyone is tired, right? They're like, oh, this leadership stuff is nonstop. And the facilitator who was running the leadership training said, okay, now we're going to do an exercise. And it was 12 people. Every single person is going to take 10 or 15 minutes and come up with their worst failures in this organization. And then I want you to share these failures. Man, some stuff came out. Tears came out. People said how they felt. Someone was hiding their mistake. Someone was like, oh, I haven't slept in forever because this is holding me back. And the point of that exercise wasn't that let's keep making mistakes. The point of this exercise was let's normalize the act, or the fact rather, that we're human. Number one, we get to make mistakes, but let's get better. Right? So we were modeling this idea that mistakes will happen. Let me give you a better example here. So everyone knows the company Spanx. I forget the name of the founder. What is the name of the founder?
What
Oh
is
my
her
God.
name?
She
I
was the young,
thought
she was the youngest billionaire. I forget her name, but she runs this meeting called the Oops meeting. A weird, funny name, right? Oops meeting every Friday. What is Oops? What is that meeting about? Where people stand up and they say, I dropped the ball here. Oops. And again, it's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be let's acknowledge and let's get better. When I talk about this book, I spent a lot of time researching the world's most elite organizations, like the Blue Angels, like Spanx, like Amazon. It is clear as day. And I've spent a lot of time doing research on this. It is clear as day. One of the core differentiators between good companies and incredible companies is the amount of discomfort they can sit in by sharing the mistakes, not so that they keep making it, but so they can keep getting better. Cody's another example. They made a mistake, sorta. They fixed it. They spoke about it. In fact, Netflix has a word for this, which is called let's sunshine our mistake. What does sunshine our mistake mean? It means don't keep it to yourself, share it so we all get better. So there's a pattern here that I've discovered. I'm not the first one to discovering that pattern, but especially now with AI, where there's so much going on. You go into Claude, what does it say? I've never seen a single product on this planet that says this product will make mistakes. Salesforce doesn't say that. Gmail doesn't say that. All AI products say that. That means mistakes are going to happen. How do we deal with them is what I'm more interested in going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I love that because we don't learn unless we're making mistakes.
Right, correct.
And
Correct.
and I mean, and that's why I love, agile frameworks and ways of teaming have been around for so long. But like the Agile Manifesto around like just bringing people together, I mean, it was formed on people. Like knowing that when we put two people together or more, we're messy alone. You put two people together, we're even more messy. And just the dynamics of, yes, like me, myself, I can make mistakes in my work, but even as a team, how our team dynamics within like maybe the sprint. Like I love when you have really good sprint teams that really follow kind of the teaming aspects. Like, most important than even the tools I often find, because it creates these ways of speaking that you just know after a 2-week sprint or whatever the sprint time frame is, we're going to have a retrospective or we're
Sure.
going to look back. And we're going
Right.
to say, yes, of course, like, okay, what could have like done better technically? But also they talk about the team dynamics and what were some of the things that maybe held us back? What like really like empowered us and fueled us that maybe we didn't try before? And then they often have the concept of team norms and they look, are our team norms still serving us? Or should we adjust those because we've gotten better at it? It's so amazing. These self-formed, self-managed teams get so comfortable about, hey, I'm low energy today. I'm coming in red. I
Right.
need some help. And
Yeah.
how do we come around that in the stand-ups? And so I just think it's so powerful to be able to enter this just into our way of conversation. The normalization is just so impactful.
And I'm seeing that, when I'm teaching managers, I see this idea that, and I've done this experiment where I'm going to ask them, how many of you are doing a blameless retrospective, right? And not once have I not gotten any hand raised. What I've seen, at least in the 1,500 managers I've trained, there are pockets of an org that is totally doing it. And it's typically developers, engineers, etc. I'm not seeing the customer success world do it. And I get it. I'm not seeing HR do it. Right. Sometimes seeing sales do it, but it's not as disciplined as the tech folks. The eng folks are totally doing it and they're getting better. I know my wife's company is really good. I know her team is really good. And they're like every quarter they're asking, okay, what's one thing we can do differently or how can we get better here? Again, what's funny to me is you don't need a PhD here to do this stuff, right? This is simple stuff that actually moves the needle. Now, connecting this with AI, that's what we want to do if we're trying to start this AI transformation program and half of the team is doing it, half the team is not doing it. I would love to sit with the team every quarter and say, okay, guys, let's just be honest, right? This was our use case. Our use case was instead of spending 40 minutes on creating presentations, our goal was we're going to spend say 20 minutes, right? Let's just be really transparent and ask ourselves what worked and what totally sucked, so we can stop doing the sucky things. My problem here is we're not talking about the sucky things, and we're just saying we're not really embracing the hard parts that we need to embrace here. And no wonder it's difficult. It is difficult. I don't, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it needs to be more difficult than it is. And I want to repeat myself. It is hard. This AI transformation stuff is difficult. No one has a playbook. I get reached out a lot on LinkedIn saying I'm an AI expert, and I'm like, yeah, block. I don't know a single AI expert. I haven't met one. A company was talking to me. They're like, so you're an AI expert? And I'm like, I'm not. We're building a plane in the sky right now. I want to be honest and tell you the playbook is not written. I haven't seen it. We're all trying to write it as we build this thing.
And that's one of the things that Mindy and I had talked about, like, a lot of times on the HR seat is like people say, just do AI, right? We always say that beep boop, okay. Like, what does that mean? Yeah.
Right.
But to me, it's even like I have someone that I was coaching with, and this person said, my boss expects me to implement AI, just do AI, right? And then expects me to say, okay, what amazing successes did I have? So they created the space for the experimentation with the AI, but what they didn't do was create the patience or the space for learning and iterating. So, and this was quite literally in customer support, where you were
Wow.
talking about of like, well, you should have this implemented by now. It's been 2 months. Like, let's go. And so I think even having a little patience is tough from a leadership standpoint.
And I want to empathize with the leadership part of this equation, because if I'm investing X amount of money, right? I'm not running a nonprofit, right? I need to see a return on this investment. And if I'm not seeing an investment, what am I doing? I'm like, you know what? Mandates. Everyone needs to do this. I haven't seen, not that mandates don't work, I just haven't seen them work all the time. What I have seen is this concept that I'm trying to coin, which is modeling over mandates. What that means is, so let's use the same leader here. Instead of saying everyone needs to do this, what if the leader said, you know what? I played around with Claude, and I was able to make this really awesome customer support customer success QBR. And you guys, no joke, it saved me half a day. Now, I don't know about you, but now I'm like, I gotta play around with this thing here. Right? And yes, there's going to be, if you think of a bell curve, you're going to have the early adopters, you're going to have most people in the middle, and then you're going to have detractors. I'm not going to move the detractors right now. I'm not focusing on them. I'm focusing on early adopters and the bell curve here in the middle. And I just think if I can start modeling by saying, I am building this thing, or I am building this agent, or I am saving time, you guys got to go check this thing out. This thing is working. Or, you know what? Don't do this. This thing sucked. Try this. I think that works. I think that's one thing I would tell, and I've been telling people, models over mandates. The second thing, which is controversial, because again, for anyone listening, I am a training guy. I've spent 18 years scaling learning and development departments. I am saying, don't lead with training. I am saying lead with the use case and follow up with training. The use case here is we're spending a lot of time on this specific problem. I think AI can help us solve this specific problem, but guess what, folks? We don't know how to use the tool. Let's get training on this tool so we can fix the problem. What doesn't work is when we say, to your point, let's do AI and let's train on AI. But how is this relevant to the problem that I need to solve today?
Yes. Yeah. And what I love about that is it's like you're painting alignment for people. So you're not also just adding more time that feels like like time that's like not valuable. Now we're actually together, or, we're giving two people this use case to go figure out, but it's something that's going to actually directly impact, hopefully, their work to make it better for themselves, the team, and or the company. And I love that it points a level also of clarity and expectation of where are we moving towards, but also giving it a playful, because it's a use case, right? We don't know the answer and we may not get it right, but even trying this out and learning it's going to help us learn something that we don't know today.
Let's figure it out together, right?
Yeah.
Or the other thing which I'm seeing, which is working really well, and the tech folks are incredible at this, which is let's do a hackathon. Let's get people together. Let's give them a lot of food and pizza and donuts and beer and all of that fun stuff and go to town. Figure out what is like a pain point and, and just build something. So I think and I want to call this out, the thing that we also have to learn and realize is AI and AI transformation rollout is not just a tech rollout. This is a change management plus tech rollout. This is not like I've taught a lot of people how to use Salesforce back, and this is not that. And I'll give you a really funny example. I was on a podcast with a couple of really cool people just last week, and we were talking about AI transformation, and I was trying to make the case that this is a change management play, and the guy was like, okay, tell me more. And I cited this, I don't know how true this is, but NBC did the survey, and people are more afraid of AI than they are of ICE right now, according to that survey. Right.
Wow.
Right. They're more fearful of AI. I don't know any tech that people are afraid of more than ICE at this point. So we have to grapple with this idea. The other thing that's really cool is, and this new research came out, I think from Harvard, where they talk about this thing called the belief anxiety paradox. I might be butchering the name, belief anxiety paradox. What that means is about 4 out of 10 people who are already using AI, are embracing AI, are actually also extremely anxious of it. They're your champions, but the back of their mind, they're like, man, what's going to happen to my job, right? So coming full circle, we got to have a conversation around this idea. It's really nebulous. I think a lot of this is in the gray. There's not a lot of black or white, but I think just kind of co-creating this together with your teams. And again, it's not easy. I used to work at Gap. Gap was 196, 200,000 people. This would be extremely hard to do it, right? With such a massive company. But I think you could figure out a way to still try doing some of these listening sessions to understand where we're going.
You're right, Ellie. It is gray. It's the shift.
Right, it's a shift.
Of uncertainty
Oh, good
that
plug.
we're in. But you're right. It is like change. It is change of behavior, change management. But it's also what I love Marnie so articulates well, within, I think, past episodes and just in our conversations together. It's a cultural change. And so does our culture support this or not? It's kind of a check, too, of like, where is our culture at? And are we going to be able to leverage our culture to move us forward? Or is our culture actually holding us back? And what aspects do we maybe need to rethink from a cultural perspective, like around fear and, many of the things that we've like talked about?
Right. And, I'll add one more point on the culture piece. I was working with a very senior leader, just incredibly smart, one of the smartest people I know. And we were having this conversation about AI, and I was asking her, I was trying to actually pitch AI training to her. And she's like, dude, I don't like this stuff. This stuff just is weird to me. This is when I say this is one of the smartest people on the planet, this is one of the smartest people on the planet. And she's like, I'm not bought in. I am not bought in right now. What I'm seeing is a lot of AI slop. I'm seeing performance reviews which are completely generated by AI. And she's like, I want people to share good feedback, positive, constructive. I'd see it. I'm like, oh, you didn't really put the effort in. Maybe they've changed their mind now. But from a culture standpoint, if your leader is AI averse, then that's got to be a little difficult. But I also know this person has an open mind, and they're very, very thoughtful on how they come up with their decision making, and if they get new information, they might change their mind. So that's what's going to happen. I read this other research, and especially since both of you are people, HR people, I don't know where the research came from, but HR people were saying that they get a lot of complaints. Typically employees complain about other people to HR. And typically those complaints used to be 2 or 3 lines for years. And now they're getting paragraphs and they're like, it's
Yes.
so well written. It's so
Mhm.
punchy. What is going on here? And it was
furthermore,
hence furthermore, let's
dash.
right, let's delve into this. And it's not this, it's that. And they're like, so now we're spending a lot of time understanding what is going on. But I do want to say one thing. I want to try to push this thing in. The thing that seems to work really well that I'm seeing, at least from my perspective, my vantage point, is yes, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about change management. Let's talk about workflow, that our workflow is going to change. But tactically, what's worked well and what's been received really well when I've shared this is this idea of a T strategy when it comes to AI transformation. And what that means is, if you're trying, for people who are listening, if you're trying to get this thing moving in your organization, I want you to think of the letter T. So the top of the T is the horizontal part, right? And think of this as increasing AI fluency. That could mean basic training that everyone in the org needs to go through, regardless of whether you're in finance or you're in engineering. Basic stuff, the change management stuff. Or if you have Copilot, everyone needs a basic amount of the Copilot training, right? That's the T, the total part, just to increase AI fluency. Now I want you to think of the stem of the T, which is the vertical part of the T. That's where your ROI lives. That is function specific stuff. So remember when I was talking about don't lead with training, lead with use case? That's where you can come up with specific use cases, because the finance use case is very different than the engineering use case. So if you could work with domain experts and identify what are the top 10 problems or 5 problems that you guys are struggling with right now, and can AI be the solution to these problems? I feel that this is a way more richer conversation than everyone gets the same training. You are getting the same training on a higher level, the basic stuff, but you have to go down function specific here. The HR person needs something completely different than the finance person does. And I've floated this with companies of all sizes. I'm so happy to hear that people are like, oh yeah, that's what we want to do, because if it makes sense in your brain. Now, it's not easy to do this. I just casually said, what are your top 5 problems? Figuring out your top 5 problems is a difficult problem in and of itself, right? But I think that works, at least in my brain and from what I'm seeing in organizations.
Okay, so I hope you have a visual of that somewhere that we
I
can
need
share.
to, right? I should. That
You
would make
did.
it way easier for me to explain this. So,
No,
yeah.
you explained it beautifully. I
Yeah,
oh,
it's
that
like go to kindergarten, right? Think of the T. Think of the well, I did come up with the stem of the T. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I was just gonna go with the stick of the T, but I think stem sounds way better here.
I'm popping this into Claude when we're done, and I'm just gonna
Please,
create a
yeah.
visual.
Oh, there you go. See that? I'll give you another example of how, at least in my life, I'm noticing there are certain places where AI is now starting to save me days of work. And when I wrote the book, I had a big PDF of the book, and I wanted separate files for the PDF. And I didn't want to go into Adobe Acrobat Reader and kind of come up with each file, give it a file name, save it in my Google Drive. I'm like, maybe Claude can do this. So I upload the PDF, Claude co-work, and I tell it, I'm like, I'm trying to do this. Tell me how to do this stuff. And it's like, maybe you do this, man. I'm like, okay, just do it. Like literally, it was like a Nike thing. I'm like, you do it. Like I'm paying you $20 a month. Come on. Like, what is this? Why should I do this work? And then I go and I think I went, either I took Lenny out or I went to get coffee, and I come back and it's telling me what it's doing. And there's a line which is kind of creepy, but it says, I have spawned sub-agents to do this task. And I'm like, wow, spawned sub-agents. Wow. I don't care. Did you do it? And then it tells me, go to your Google Drive. It gives me a link. I've written about this, and this was freaking me out because I connected Google Drive to it. I go to Google Drive. It's got a folder. It's made the folder. It's come up with the right title. All the PDFs are there. Now, this would have taken me 30 to 40 minutes of work, if not more. That's just one use case and I've done a lot more where it's actually and I am very like, if it doesn't save me time, I'm not going to talk about it. It's saving me time. Conversely, it also messes up all the time. It doesn't know the right date. And I'm like, how is it that you don't know the right date? Or when I ask it a question and it comes up with the best answer that supports my thesis, and then I say, take the opposing argument, like clockwork, it comes up with another answer which makes my answer look crap. So I'm like, okay, what is it? The point that I'm trying to make is, in the world that we're in, the core skill that each of us need to develop is the skill of discernment. Do we have taste? That I love the word taste. That is a good word. Do you have the right taste to know what you want to work on? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? We got to teach that to our people. That's the top of the T, which is, how do you know if this thing is actually legit from what you're asking? Right. It literally says I can make mistakes. So, so I think those are things we need to talk about as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like a lot of people say that as critical thinking. I love the thing about discernment and taste and
judgment.
Judgment. Yeah, that's another great word to use for that. And what I love about all of that is like, we're not just born with these things. Like, it's like a muscle that we build. And like, going back to what you said about modeling as a manager, if we're in a place of less than or fear, I often see managers starting to micromanage and like directing, which doesn't leave room for critical thinking as much.
Sure.
We're relying on someone else to be thinking for us. And so I'm just tying that back to your modeling comment from before.
And speaking of modeling, I teach people how to delegate, and people would say, oh, God, it was so boring, delegation. And if you don't know how to delegate, you don't know how to delegate to the bots right now, because that is a core skill.
True.
Or giving feedback, or a skill that I could apply to AI right now. And in fact, I'll tell you, some of the organizations I'm speaking to are already talking about frontier teams, which is, how do we think of performance management when half of the team is human and half of the team is agent? How does that work? And folks, we need to figure those answers out now, because it's already happening at this moment in time, right? So what does that look like is also a question that I'm trying to understand myself, and I don't think there's a simple answer to that.
No, and HR folks, that's something that you need to be very aware of, is what does organizational design look like? And are the bots, is that a job description? Is that a role within your organization? And I think that is something that we have to grapple with as far as not just grapple with, but get really curious about and understand.
Yeah.
Amazon had this problem. The Financial Times wrote this article where their agent did something and they lost a lot of money, it was pretty bad that it was in the news. But then Amazon leadership said, the humans messed up. But then the reporter asked the humans, and the humans were like, no, I didn't mess up. The agent messed up. So the question then becomes, especially for HR people, how do you figure this out? This is going to get really complicated really quickly. Managing humans was always difficult, by the way. Now you're managing agents on top of humans. So I think I think it's an exciting world, but I think it's a very complicated world as well.
Love that you mentioned that, Allie, because that's so true. Like, you can't just launch these agents and think that they're just to be left on their own. Like, I love the word like managing, because we do need to, continue to maintain, fine tune. Where is that human in the loop that's overseeing the agents and how they are performing,
Right.
which is so important. And then from Marnie, what you're saying around and also Allie around just the workplace. Oh my goodness, the word is escaping me right now. I hate it when that happens. Like planning for the future for our organization. What's that word, Marnie? What's the word?
Organizational design?
Yes, thank you.
We'll go with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, you should have asked for $1 million there, right?
She's a winner. Organizational design, because yes, people do talk about, okay, all these jobs are going to be done by agents, but then there's all these new jobs that don't exist today that will be there in several years. And in some research that I've seen, some forecasting, that number is quite large.
Mm.
Like, it's quite large. And so really taking the time to often say just slow down, to go faster, to start this dialogue, to start having conversations with each other around organizational design and talking about this now is so important. And it's not a conversation that we're going to put a bow around after 3 hours or at an offsite, right? It's something, but it's good to start it and to sit in with the uncertainty, because it's going to be, as we're learning, as you said, we're learning. Like, we're trying this out and we're going to figure it out together.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, I know there are really cool organizations like Charter that are doing a lot of really good conferences. They're bringing in heads of HR. I think Brian Elliott talks a lot about this as well. He's pretty active on LinkedIn and Substack on what is working inside in the trenches and what is not working. I think the other skill that I've been trying to tell people is, this idea of learning fast was always a skill. I think it's never been more important than it's right now, which is, how do you keep learning? How do you figure out what to learn? How do you keep learning faster as well? And if I'm interviewing people for, I'm asking that question, which is, okay, what was the last thing you learned? And, someone asked me that question and I'm like, it's embarrassing. I didn't learn physics in high school. And now I'm using ChatGPT. I'm using Notebook LM to translate some of those concepts. And it's been kind of cool to learn from something that doesn't judge me. I would feel a certain way, right? But I'm going to give you one more really cool anecdote. So I teach managers on how to have really difficult conversations. No one wakes up in the morning thinking, I want to have a difficult conversation today, right? No one does that. And we're like, okay, how do we use AI to help managers? Again, the use case wasn't let's use AI. The use case was, how do we use AI to help managers become better, like have feedback conversations. So I used my book. We created a custom GPT so managers could go and role play. And I asked the people in class, I'm like, okay, how many of you want to practice with a bot versus a human? I was expecting most people saying, I want to practice with a partner. Guess what the answer was? Take a guess. 80% said, I want to give me access to this thing. And I asked the class, I'm like, why? Why do you want to do this? And they were like, because I can do whatever. It can't get me in trouble. Right?
No, they're big fans of you.
What's that?
They're big fans of you, actually.
Or that. But the challenge then is the bot giving you the right guidance?
Yep.
When I wrote the book, I wrote about this on LinkedIn as well. When I wrote the book, I was trying to edit the book, and a lot of my friends said, just use ChatGPT. Just use ChatGPT. Dude, you're already paying $20, just use it. And I'm like, okay, these are really smart people. I'm going to do it. So I used ChatGPT, and ChatGPT really, really, really helped me on the punctuation, on the grammar. It could just do it. But then towards the end, I'm like, man, like something is missing. I just need a human to look me straight in the eye and tell me this sucks, or this is good, or you need more help. So I went to a human. I found an editor. I paid this person $2,000, 100 times what I would pay ChatGPT, $20 a month. And within 10 minutes, we, in our first Zoom call, she told me, this is really good and this needs help. Now, The AI could have told me the same thing. The problem is I wouldn't have believed AI more than another human who had done the work before. So what I'm seeing is from a coaching standpoint, I'm seeing the fact that it's getting democratized. Everyone can get a coach in their pocket, which is awesome. However, my thesis, and I may hopefully not be wrong, is there is going to be a massive premium for people who are experts at the leadership coaching aspect, who are human, who will command more money, not less. That's what I'm already seeing this idea that more and more people want to be outside IRL and doing more offline things because we're getting a little tired of, just living our lives on Zoom. So I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be in the learning and development space, in the HR space with I am smack in the middle. I'm not going to be doom and gloom about it. And I'm not going to say that AI is our savior. I'm not. I refuse to say that. I think the best way to do this is to look under the hood, build it yourself, right? And then if it works, talk about what works. And if it sucks, also talk about what it's terrible at, because it makes a lot of mistakes. I think that's how we get through to this next phase.
So good. What a great way to end. Y'all, we have killed an hour. Like that's
We have.
great conversation, as we
great.
knew it would be. So outside of making modeling over mandates happen,
Macaroni and cheese. I'm getting hungry.
where can people find you, Allie? Or what would be your summary?
The best thing is just allinmanager.com, one word, allinmanager.com. It's a mouthful, and you get everything. There's a little blue thing on top, which will take you straight to the Amazon page with the book. The book literally, I don't know why, is still 99 cents, because maybe I just haven't had time to update the price on Kindle. It's $1. No, less than $1.
Allie Merchant, increase the cost on that.
So grab it. Do me a favor, please. I say this to everyone. If you get the book, just get to chapter 2. Chapter 2 has a QR code if it's a physical book, or if you're reading it on a Kindle, there's a link which will give you access to all my tools and templates. Literally for a buck, you get everything. It took me 18 months to write this. It took me 18 years to think about this book. When I wrote this book was, if you read this book, it's going to help you become a better manager today. That is the goal of this book. Every single page has at least one thing. Well, not every single page, okay? Every 2 pages has one thing that you could do. Life is short. You don't have time. I've been in your shoes. I've managed people all over the globe. It's going to give you one thing you can try today. And if you try it today, I promise you're going to find the confidence to keep doing more and more and more of this stuff. This stuff is hard. It doesn't have to be that hard. It is hard, but it shouldn't have to be that difficult. That's why I wrote this book. allinmanager.com is where you're going to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn. Fortunately or unfortunately, LinkedIn can be super cringe lately with so much AI slop, but I'm not as frequent as I used to be, but I'm still there. And last but not least, I'm trying to get better with Substack. It's a new game for me. But it's been more fun. I don't know if you guys are on Substack, but Substack's been more.
We've been thinking about it.
It's been more fun, at least for me. The types of responses I get are not performative like I get on LinkedIn. They're like long, thought out. And I've met some really cool people, like really cool people on Substacks. It's pretty hot, at least now. So
thought about Substack in comments, actually.
It's
I
pretty
have not
amazing.
been in there personally enough. I always just thought of it as newsletters, but like a whole conversation. You are like...
It's got a section called
meaningful
notes.
Conversations, dangling candy in front of me.
And I'll tell you, if you post on LinkedIn, you could just take some of your posts and put it on Substack. So it has a social media component, which is called notes. So you can just put like a 2-line thing. Just yesterday, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't like this term servant leader. I don't know. I'm a leadership guy. I don't like the term. It just feels awkward to me. And I said that, and I'm like, am I the only one? And I got some really cool responses from people saying, yeah, it's pretty antiquated. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I would get the same type of response on LinkedIn. I'm not, LinkedIn is LinkedIn, right? It's good. It kind of goes up and down. But Substack, at least for now, isn't. It's kind of interesting, at least to me. I'm having more fun. It's easy. It's not performative. So at least right
Yes.
now, maybe I'll change my mind 6 months from now.
Well, everything's always changing, as we
Everything
said,
is
but
always
that
correct.
sounds really refreshing,
Yeah.
Allie.
Yeah.
Allie, I just love your heart and just who you are. It just like shines through how much you love and care and how purpose driven you are. Thank you so much for spending more than 30 minutes with us,
Sure.
too. You
This
are
is fun.
so gracious.
Yeah.
Man, I just have loved this conversation.
Great. Yeah, I have too. You have asked really good questions. Marnie is really good at questions.
Marnie's amazing.
Marnie is amazing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I do a lot of
We'll edit that.
podcasts, and this is fun because you guys we're very like-minded, which is fun, right? So let's do it again. Just let me know what time, and we can obviously we can talk about anything leadership or L&D related, transformation related.
Mm.
Just reach out anytime.
Allie,
you,
thank you
Allie.
so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Great.
All right. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.
You
Yes.
Au
too.
revoir.
Take care.